Good morning and welcome to the Greenville Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. My name is Hilary Nelson and I serve this congregation as a member of the Shared Ministry Committee and as treasurer of the fellowship. Whether you have been with us on Sundays for a long time or are visiting us for the first time today, we welcome you to our service. This congregation is a theologically diverse religious community with participation open to all who agree to live into our principles, mission, and values. We are a welcoming congregation to people of all sexual orientations and gender identities, races, ethnicities, and abilities, and we unconditionally welcome you as your full, authentic self to our community of caring and commitment to grow as spiritual and moral beings. Our congregational mission is to strengthen our connections to one another and our planet by enlivening minds and spirits, building community through liberating love, and advocating fiercely for justice. It is our custom in this congregation to acknowledge visitors and newcomers. If it's your first time here, would you mind raising your hand so that we can acknowledge you? Welcome, and thanks so much for joining us this morning. All are invited to join us for coffee after the service. New and newer folks are invited to grab a green mug located just inside the door of the fellowship hall so we can easily spot you and speak to you during our coffee hour. You are also welcome to fill out one of the green cards that can be found in the back of the pews so that we can keep in touch with you. Simply drop the card in the offering basket or in the box at the welcome table in the foyer. Please know that whatever your religious history, whatever your personal theology, all people of goodwill are welcome here. Your presence makes us better. Your presence makes us whole. Our service will now begin.
I am only one, but I am still one. I cannot do everything, but still I can do something. And because I cannot do everything, I will not refuse to do the something that I can do.
Good morning, GUUF. I'm the Reverend Chris Hockman. I'm so happy to see all of you here on this temptingly sunny spring morning that would make some people feel like skipping church. So extra credit today. Our call to worship this morning is from the Reverend Dr. David Breeden. We gather into this circle of care, to dream, to envision, to embody and achieve, the compassion we dream, the justice we envision, the dignity of each in an ever-growing circle of love and justice. Come, let us worship together. Please rise and body your spirit. We're singing hymn number 116 in the gray hymnal, I'm on my way. And let's give it some Sunday morning gusto.
Good morning. I'm David Funderburk. I'm the Director of Religious Education here at GUUF, and I welcome any children or youth or anyone of any age who'd like to come hear our story today up close to come sit at the base of the steps or in the front pews. Welcome. Our story today is about disability justice. So our service today is about the justice making that our goal group is doing and how they are doing all sorts of great work to make sure that everyone in our community has the things that they need. And if we want to move into a future where we all get what we need, then we need to move together. So that's the focus of our story today. It's by Kelly Fritsch, Ann McGuire, and Eduardo Trejos. All bodies are unique and essential. All bodies are whole. All bodies have strengths and needs that must be met. We are powerful not despite the complexities of our bodies, but because of them. We move together with nobody left behind. This is disability justice. we move fast. We move slow. We move together. Sometimes we have to wait. Waiting can feel boring, frustrating, and waiting can also feel exciting. Like butterflies, like love. We wait so we can spend time together. Sometimes when we're together, we get stopped in our tracks. Like when all the fun and flavors of ice cream are just one step out of reach. We notice when things are unfair, and it helps us get creative. We make plans, we solve problems. We build something better. We work together, kids and dogs, bodies and machines, bees and flowers, fish and water. Relying on each other helps us get where we need to go. Sometimes we find ourselves in unfamiliar places. We wonder, we get curious. We might have more questions than answers. Our questions can help us learn to do things differently. And discover new ways of understanding each other. For the things that connect us are also what nourish us, like roots and tubes and straws and friends. And these things that connect us are often what challenge us. Sometimes we disagree about how to be together. Solving one problem can create another, and we don't always know how to make things better. Sometimes we need to take a break. Even when we're by ourselves, we never move alone. Like feeling so close with someone who's far. Like learning from others who have come before. Their memories can ground us, soothe us, move us. Whether we're by ourselves or surrounded by many, our small movements can turn into big movements. We're in this together. Nothing about us without us. Access is love. We celebrate. We make change. We move together. If you've enjoyed this book, lot of extra information in the back about disability justice if you'd like to look through this book more by yourself or with your kid. So thank you for listening. And if you're coming with me to our classes this morning, please come with me down the center aisle.
The purpose of this church is to encourage all who gather here to grow more generous in spirit and in action. This is the great end of all of the world's faith traditions, to bring the human being closer to the divine by acts of creation and compassion. We will now take an offering that allows us to exercise that all-important generosity of spirit, an offering that will support this self-supporting fellowship and its many ministries. The gifts of this congregation will be most gratefully received. It is our custom in this fellowship to share the joys and the sorrows that shape our lives, honoring each one with the lighting of a candle. We recognize that life is not always easy, and that we all have moments of celebration and struggle. We believe that by sharing these experiences with one another, we can celebrate with, support, and uplift each other as we navigate the significant events in our lives. We begin this morning with a joy from Amanda Powell. I'm celebrating the birth of my new baby niece, Charlotte Louise Powell, born on April 2nd in Denver to my brother Neil and his wife, Kendra. Both baby girl and mom are home now and settling in. And from our friend Day. I woke up the morning of the 7th, nervous about the first session of Starting Point. When I went to check on vegetables I'd planted from seed, I found they were already unfurling their little green heads. I took that as a sign, a very good sign, and managed my nervousness enough to attend a successful first session. So today's joy is about the wonder of growth. We will light one final candle, representing all of the joys and sorrows present in our hearts that remain unspoken. We will observe a brief moment of silence before the words for meditation are spoken.
A prayer of co-creation from the Reverend Lynn Cox. Creative Spirit, source of life and love, we give thanks for the beauty of this day and for the company of those assembled here. Thank you for the breezes of change clearing our heads and bringing fresh ideas. May they cleanse our minds of the oppressions and isms that divide us. Thank you for the flame of hope, the heat of righteous anger, the warmth of compassion, and the fire of commitment. May they bubble the cauldrons of transformation. Thank you for oceans of love, rivers of connection, tears of relief, and pools of serenity. May healing waters flow over us and through us and among us, wearing down the sharp rocks of despair to bring joy in the morning. Thank you for the good earth beneath us, around us, and within us. May we take this clay and co-create a new realm of justice and beauty. Amen.
Good morning. I'm Kat Stellern. I am ever honored to be able to say that I'm the president-elect of this great fellowship. I also serve GUUF and GOAL, which is Greenville Organized for Accountable Leadership, our interfaith justice network here in our community. So I represent GUUF at GOAL as one of the team leaders, board member, and part of the Affordable Housing Research and Steering Committees. The reason why I am up in front of you today is GOAL is having its biggest annual event, the Nehemiah Action, tomorrow, Monday, April 15th at 6:30. Doors open at 6, at the historic Bethlehem Baptist Church in Simpsonville. You need to attend. You need to bring friends, and I'll tell you why. Buckle up, my goofers. I'm about to quote the Bible. To be honest, I'm not super confident in all of what I'm about to say, so please, if you are a person who is well-versed in biblical teachings or you're a minister, please feel free to raise a hand or a voice and correct me where need be. Generally, just think about the next few minutes as the part of the program with audience participation. I'm going to start with our friend Nehemiah, who our action is named after. Last year, our Director of Religious Education, David Funderburk, shared one story of Nehemiah, how he used all of his resources. They were all the P's. He used his prayer, his position, his privilege, his proclivity toward leadership, his persistence, and his people power to rebuild the wall around Jerusalem. That story is from the first few chapters of the book of Nehemiah. I'm going to focus on the story from the 5th and 6th chapters of the Old Testament book. While good old Nehemiah was doing everything he needed to rebuild the wall, he started to hear more from his people about the conditions in Jerusalem. As with many developed countries today, ours is no exception. The wealth in Nehemiah's land was concentrated in the hands of a few. Pharaoh, their king, required both tributes of the bounty of the field and vineyards and taxes on the fields and vineyards. So this created a famine. And for anyone who might be visually impaired, I'm using quotation marks around the word famine. An extreme scarcity of food, particularly grain. Truth be told, Pharaoh was hoarding the grain. He wanted his narrative to reign supreme. The people were mortgaging their fields, vineyards, and homes to be able to afford to eat. They were borrowing money in other ways to afford to both buy grain and pay their taxes. The people of Jerusalem had to sell their children into slavery just to survive. Nehemiah's people had taken on debt, given up their land and homes, and even sold their children, all because the wealthy and powerful wanted more. What did Nehemiah do? He called together a large meeting to deal with them, mustered people power. He said, "What you are doing is not right. Shouldn't you walk in the fear of our God?" He evoked the spirituality of the leaders. He said, "Give back to them immediately their fields, vineyards, olive groves, and houses, and also the usury you are charging them." He demanded just action. Then he continued, he summoned the priests and made the nobles and officials take an oath to do what they had promised. He required that they promised to follow through on that action. At this, the whole assembly said amen. This is what Gold did last year and what we're aiming to continue to do this year at the Nehemiah Action. Muster people power, evoke the spirituality of the leaders, demand just action, and require that they promise to follow through on that action. Can I get an amen? But that's not the end of Nehemiah's story. Chapter 6 continues explaining that the wealthy leaders who were likely to lose a little in the balancing of the scales of justice, they tried to sabotage Nehemiah. They tried to lure him away from his work in order to do him harm. But he was wise and was not deterred. So they resorted to a false narrative. The leaders sent an open letter saying, "It is reported among the nations that you and the Jews are plotting to revolt, and therefore you are building the wall. Moreover, according to these reports, you are about to become their king and have even appointed prophets to make this proclamation about you in Jerusalem. Now this report will get back to Pharaoh, so come, let us confer together." Nehemiah replied, and I actually looked up several versions of the Bible. This is my husband's student Bible from his teenage years, proof that we have roots in Christianity. But it was the same in every version. To this, Nehemiah replied, "Nothing like what you are saying is happening. You are just making it up out of your head." The leaders in Nehemiah's time were peddling disparaging stories about him. They were critical of how he was doing the work, and they reinforced Pharaoh's narrative of scarcity, fear, despair, and anxiety. Pharaoh wanted the people to believe in scarcity, that there wasn't enough grain, to feel fear that they wouldn't survive, to live in despair that there was nothing they could do about it, and anxiety that they would be in this perilous, desperate place for all time. In reality, the justice narrative of abundance, hope, possibility, and confidence paints an entirely different picture. Nehemiah, a believer in justice, knew there was abundance, plenty of grain for all of his people if it was properly distributed. Hope that everyone could not only survive but thrive. Possibility that their actions would make a difference, and confidence that they could create a beautiful life. Similarly, many of our public officials are peddling their own disparaging stories about GUUF. They find our organization antagonistic, air quotes again. They say that they share our objectives, but they've communicated that they're uncomfortable with GUUF's process. Some even went so far as to suggest a totally different format for our Nehemiah action, to turn it into their own meeting, to serve Pharaoh's narrative instead of the narrative of justice. I had pulled out a few appropriate quotes from Mormon elders, but then I realized that a GUUF elder, Jim Hennigan, he's downstairs in the 4th and 5th grade classroom right now. Also, maybe don't tell him I called him an elder. He might not think that's the compliment I do. Anyway, Jim shared his wisdom on the subject of this kind of response from our elected officials. Quote, "Politicians and powerful people and the powerful institutions they serve may seem like allies, and there are times they may serve that function. At the end of the day, however, they are also going to be the roadblock, the obstacle, or the threat that a movement must confront. When that happens, here's the question that the people of the movement must answer. Are we here to take care of the feelings and ego and quest for power and influence of an already empowered politician? Or are we here to first direct the care and concern and energy of the movement in the direction of those who are vulnerable and toward those who are directly impacted by faulty public policy?" This bears repeating. Who are we directing our care at, Pharaoh or the people? Please raise your hand if in the past year you know, have seen, or have heard of someone in our community with a need for mental health care who didn't have adequate resources or support. Thank you. Please keep them up for a second. Also, please raise your hand if in the past year you know, have seen, or have heard of someone in our community who is struggling with housing. Take a look around. So tell me, do we need to care for Pharaoh or the people represented by each hand you see raised here this morning? The people. These public representatives are the pharaohs of our time. They have everything they need to thrive, and they also peddle a narrative of scarce resources to help those with mental illness or housing insecurity. Fear and despair that all is lost. They say that we should be anxious, that this is the tragic world in which we live. But friends, I implore you to believe in justice. There are enough resources in our community to take care of all of us. Everyone has the capacity to be amazing. We can make a difference if we are willing to act, and we can create the heaven on earth that you know is possible. Tomorrow night at the 2024 Goal Nehemiah Action, you'll hear updates and testimonies on the issues of mental health and affordable housing here in Greenville County. One such story is from our own friend of the fellowship, Adriana Brooks. Adriana is a local wife, mother, mediator, and community supporter who has literally been answering the calls to the 988 mental health support line. While State Rep. Chandra Dillard and State Senator Carl Allen have pledged their support for funding the 988 Lifeline here in Greenville, State Rep. Bruce Bannister and State Senator Ross Turner have not been fully participating in the conversation. Adriana is going to share with us a sneak peek of her testimony for the Nehemiah Action, which will only cement the need for full funding of this initiative. Her story reminds us that we need to first direct the care and concern and energy of the movement towards the vulnerable, our people, not our pharaohs. Thank you, Adriana.
Thanks for having me. I'm nervous, but what a friendly audience to practice with before the big thing tomorrow. Like Kat said, my name is Adriana Brooks, and I serve our community through the vital work at the local 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline Center. Every day, I witness the profound impact the genuine support we offer can have on individuals in the midst of a crisis. 988 is more than just a number. It's a beacon of hope for those feeling lost in the darkness of their struggles. I remember a call that came late one evening from a young woman feeling as if she had nowhere left to turn. She had been cutting her wrist earlier in the day and had planned to wreck her car before she called us. I asked her to pull over while we talked so she could stay safe. She began to tell me that she lost her mom a month ago to cancer and didn't have any other support. She also revealed that she had a failed attempt of suicide when she was 16 years old and that she was going to make sure she did it right this time. Through many tears and moments of despair, she was able to bravely unload the things that she was holding on to, and I was able to gently support her through it all. Together, we found a glimmer of hope so strong that she realized just how valuable her life was and that it was worth living. My partner called emergency responders, and I stayed on the phone with her until they knocked on her car door. She thanked me over and over again for picking up the phone and walking on this path of hope with her. This is just one of countless instances where immediate access to support has made a life-changing difference. However, the reality is that for every call like this, there are others that go unanswered due to insufficient staffing and resources. It breaks my heart to think of those we can't reach in time, of the lives that could be saved if only we had the capacity to answer every call the moment it comes in. What would have happened if I would have missed her call? This isn't just about numbers, it's about lives, about the health and well-being of our community members. So I stand before you today to implore our public officials, our leaders, our community at large to ensure that our local 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline Center is fully funded and staffed, not just this year, but for years to come. We need their continued commitment to expand our capabilities to ensure that every individual in crisis can receive the immediate care and support they deserve. Imagine the lives we can save, the families we can keep whole, and the community we can strengthen by making sure that no call for help goes unanswered. So, I ask you, what is our goal? Justice! That's right, justice for every individual struggling in silence, justice through support, care, and immediate response. Together, let's ensure that our mental health crisis system embodies the justice and compassion our community stands for. Thank you.
Thank you, Adriana. At our last meeting at GUUF of our GOAL team leaders and our GOAL network members, I was asked to talk about how our Unitarian Universalist faith calls us to do justice work. And I quickly turned that question over to the people gathered, thinking that if they couldn't answer it, I had a lot of work ahead of me. But as I expected, soon all sorts of answers came out of the group. Why do justice work? It's in our principles, someone said. It's one of our values, someone said. It is the right thing to do, I believe I heard. And we talked about our interdependence, which happens to be our monthly theme. About how no one of us is really okay until everyone is okay. We talked about how justice work is really an imperative when it comes to walking our you talk. Justice work is a natural outflow of our values of love and compassion, making them visible, making them present in the world. And I could go on and on and on about this, but I think, you know about this already. I've got this great quote from the writer and activist Adrienne Marie Brown. She's the author of a book called Emergent Strategy, Shaping Change, Shaping Worlds. And if you don't know her work, you should check her out. The book Emergent Strategy is known as a guidebook for getting in right relationship with change, using our own nature and that of creatures beyond human as our teachers. Now, you may have guessed that she knows a thing or two, not just about justice, but about interdependence as well. She says everything, that's spelled out in capital letters, everything is connected. The soil needs rain, organic matter, air, worms, and life in order to do what it needs to do to give and receive life. Each element is an essential component. Organizing takes humility and selflessness and patience and rhythm, while our ultimate goal of liberation will take many expert components. Some of us build and fight for land, healthy bodies, healthy relationships, clean air, water, homes, safety, dignity, and humanizing education. Others of us fight for food and political prisoners and abolition and environmental justice. Our work is intersectional and multifaceted. Nature teaches us that our work has to be nuanced and steadfast. And more than anything, that we need each other at our highest natural glory in order to get free. Now, she describes her approach to social justice this way. When those with power are doing inhumane or anti-planet things, our choice to be disruptive, to be impolite, is one of the ways we wage small resistance that can become mass resistance and large-scale cultural and political transformation. We have learned this from ancestors in our lineages who helped expose and break massive systems like chattel slavery or Holocaust genocide. So today you've heard about GOAL and tomorrow night's Nehemiah Action, where we, among more than 1,000 people of faith in Greenville, have already been preemptively accused of being impolite and disruptive. You know what I'd say to our legislators? If you can't handle a little impolite or a little disruptive, a little discomfort from church people, of all people, who are advocating for their fellow human beings, you should not be in office. Because you are clearly not cut out for the job. How dare you be so fragile when so many people in our community are suffering, right? All right, that was my pound the pulpit moment. So we will be making asks to the legislators that dare show up and address them about a mental health ask and an affordable housing ask. And you know, even if the legislators don't show, we need to show up, because even despite them not showing up, our presence makes a statement. It says, we were here, where were you? And as I've said many times before, GUUF's participation in GOAL is one of the most important things we can do as a congregation to affect positive change in Greenville. It's one of the most important things we can do as individuals. You know, the time investment for the average network member is not big. It's just mainly showing up, and showing up is really important. And of course, there are opportunities to get more involved if you're interested. And I've been so proud of you, GUUF, this congregation, for embracing GOAL so wholeheartedly when it was brand new last year, right? I'm completely just knocked out by your ability to show up, and I want to keep up that momentum, don't you? Keep up the momentum, right? I mean, I'd say also, not to be self-serving, but the Nehemiah Action, or maybe a little, is GUUF's biggest moment of visibility in our community. Last year, we made ourselves known by our gold, yellow, Side with Love shirts, reinforcing our reputation as people who show up for justice. And you know, as a result of our big gold and yellow blob last year, I expect we'll see a lot more church t-shirts this time around. So we have more competition, so we gotta be ready. So now I'd like to ask all those who are not yet signed up, whether you have the t-shirt or not, wear anything you like, but commit to going to the action tomorrow night. Of course, I understand, there's no shame if you have an unavoidable conflict or can't be in crowds, big crowds, for any number of reasons, and that is okay. But for everybody who can possibly do it, I think if you can commit to going, especially if you haven't been last year, you will be so glad you did, and you'll be blown away by the power and the enormity of this event. And if you're looking for the GUUF contingent, well, at the Bethlehem Baptist Church in Simpsonville, you will see the yellow gold mob right away. And you all have just shown such great support of goal and incredible GUUF team spirit so far. So yeah, let's keep it up. So now the logistical part. If you need your ticket, I invite you to see Lynn Bell or another team leader, but where's Lynn? Oh, she's back hiding in the corner there, Lynn. Out in the narthex, which is the fancy church word for foyer, after the service. There's also opportunities out there to sign up to be a carpool driver or a carpool rider. And for you on the live stream who don't have tickets, don't worry, tickets will be available at the door. Again, the doors open at 6 p.m. Early arrival is much better in terms of parking. So plan to get there right at 6 so you can park and be ready for 6:30. And there is still time, like Kat mentioned, to invite additional people, friends, neighbors, relatives, whether they're religious or not. All of our attendees get counted and we get credit. So boosting our numbers for GUUF and boosting our numbers overall is helpful on many levels. So got the part about the carpools. All right, so I encourage you to come out to represent GUUF tomorrow night. You won't be sorry you did. So what do we want? Justice! Amen. May it be so.
I have a question. Are there charges for the tickets?
The tickets are free. The tickets are just a mechanism of counting attendance and who was there and what congregation they're affiliated with. All right, we ready? Let's sing. Please rise in body or spirit to sing 1028 in the Teal hymnal, The Fire of Commitment.
As we close our service this morning, please join me in reading together as we extinguish our chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
All right. Yeah, didn't want to go out. A couple of quick announcements before our very brief closing words. If you still need to pick up your yellow gold love shirt, they will be there in the fellowship hall. I believe there might also be some extra ones for sale if you did not pre-order. And again, out in the narthex, tickets, carpool signups, and also other opportunities to volunteer at the action tomorrow night. All right, our closing words are from the Reverend Tess Baumberger. May we go forth to meet oppression with freeing justice, hatred with healing love, and despair with unfailing faith. May it be so. Dear ones, go in peace, return in love, and blessed be.